You have your own projects. I mean, a lot of people see us often as, hey, we're on YouTube. We talk a little bit about what's going on, but I love to see when there's folks like yourself have your own projects, and these have been successful. You had your Kickstarter not too long ago with Rogue Elements, but just lay it all out there on what Rogue Elements has been about, Ron Drake story, what it's about, what all that is entailed, as well as just your overall experience. Because again, the audience might not be privy to it, but the overall experience of what you have in kind of doing your own film and everything that comes with it.
No, absolutely, man. Well, I'll start at the beginning. For those of the people who don't know, when I'm not doing stuff on YouTube and criticizing movies, I was an author before all of this began, and I had a series of books called the Ryan Drake series. It's 9 novels plus a couple of novellas. They're kind of like espionage thrillers. There are a lot of action, a lot of spying, all that sort of tradecraft stuff, a lot of conspiracies, and so that was really what I got into before I did YouTube. And obviously, as my profile grew through the YouTube channel, I had people get in touch with me and suggest various ideas. And one of them was an independent film director who said, I'd love to do something in this universe. I've read a bunch of your books, really enjoyed them. Maybe we could do something. So we hashed out a script. We had some contingencies in place. We said, like, we're going to need a bit of funding to do this, obviously, because making movies is an expensive job.
Cheap.
Yeah, it is definitely not cheap. And so we thought, well, if we can try doing a Kickstarter, a little bit of crowdfunding, maybe we'll get to 10, 20 grand, and that'll give us just the basic equipment. We can hire some people in and we can do a really simple short film and see where we go from there. So we did the Kickstarter. And holy shit, man, it took off. And before we knew it, we had like $250,000, then $300,000. And it just, it was great, So awesome. We were able to do a lot more stuff than we'd originally planned. We were able to make a proper movie out of this rather than just some goofy, YouTuber film, which you've seen a million of them. Like, it's easy for them to go wrong. And so, we were very blessed as well. We had an excellent team of people that we were able to get on board for this, and everything just kind of aligned for us. The actors and writers strikes in a lot of ways really helped us because there was a whole bunch of people and equipment and stuff that wasn't getting used, and so we were able to use that on our movie. And it looks, it costs like $300,000. We have got something that looks like it costs 2 or 3 million, which again is small potatoes in the grand scheme of things, but it looks way better than I ever could have predicted. And the stunt people, the actors, everyone just gave it 110%, man. So it's been an incredible experience so far, and I can't wait to share it with people.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be something special. Again, seeing that kind of cross into a different medium has to be kind of surreal for you, right? Being an author and having spent all that time kind of developing this general concept, and then to see it play out differently kind of in the live action. I guess, can you speak to that? Because I know from experience, even just something as simple as taking the characters from the book to the animation was it's kind of trippy. But now you're starting to see this kind of work that you've done, and you spent a lot of time doing it, now sort of manifest itself in a way that maybe some will argue is going to be a little more digestible. That's why we dipped in animation, maybe a little more digestible than what it is, because that's the industry, right? Movies, television, that's where you're going to get the most viewership or eyes on a given project. So how's that experience been when you're starting to see some of the edits or see some of the stunt actors doing their things with your general project?
Yeah, I mean, it's been an incredible experience. It's surreal in so many ways, man. It's something that I almost never thought was going to happen. To go from what you do when you write your characters, and I'm sure it's the same for you, you have an idea in your head of what they look like,
right.
And you picture them almost like you're making a movie in your head when you write scenes with them. And, you've then got to translate that into something visual. In your case, it's through comics. So you've got artists who are doing that, and it's their interpretation of the character. In a movie sense, you know, we have to find actual real human beings who look roughly like the characters that I have in mind. And so we've got all these, for me, it all started with the auditions where I was seeing people's audition tapes, and the director, the producer were coming to me and saying, like, what do you think of this guy? What do you think of this person? And, you know, how well do they fit with the character? And you see so many that it's like, oh, it's so close, but it's not quite what I was looking for. And then you might see one person, it's like they look exactly how I would expect, but they don't really have the right attitude. And so it's quite difficult to find something just perfect. You'll never get it 100%.
Yeah.
But then to go from that to eventually like me being on set and like having conversations with the actors who are going to be playing my characters, it's crazy, man. As the author, it's really surreal. And they start asking you questions that you don't even fucking know the answer to. It's like, yeah, damn, you're asking me about a book that I wrote like 12 years ago.
Yeah. No,
but it's great. It's really challenging, but interesting.
Yeah. No, for sure. Again, I can only imagine because at least with what we do, we have some sort of visual, you know, general overall starting point, but definitely with you doing novels, like that's very, very descriptive, right? In terms of who this character is, how they act, you know, you're spelling each and every bit of that. So in some cases, the audience have an even better idea, even though they're not necessarily seeing it like a graphic novel or something. They still maybe have a better idea because, you know, you're being very, very descriptive. So you kind of got to deliver on that front. And I can imagine if you're going through casting, you're like, he looks the part, but not quite this, you know, because he needs to act like this. He needs to have this amount of intensity, or, you know, and maybe a little more soft spoken or whatever that it may be. But I can imagine when you land it, and seeing those guys do their thing has to be surreal. I'm stoked. I'll say that first and foremost, to see this play out, just because I do think that, you know, I speak from experience that, you know, you have this YouTube, you build this following, and often people forget that, you know, we're people, regular folks like others, and we have our own aspirations, right? And while this may have been the biggest thing that we've done, or this is something that got the most eyes on it, you know, you have your own thing, and it's your own individual creativity that you're kind of living out. In your case, it's doing what you've been doing with Ryan Drake series, and in mine it was like music and all that, and then that kind of turned in, of course, what we're doing here with the Riververse with the comic book stuff. So I love to see people that are in our space, because you know, just like I think you can speak to this. When we grew that audience, it almost allowed us to kind of go back to the drawing board with what it is that we were doing before, and make something bigger and better out of it, because you can convince people to buy it, right? Because you built this rapport with the audience. So in your case, you do a Kickstarter like with this, so you have these big ideas, and now you can make something like that happen. And that's a hurdle that a lot of people just never are able to get over. But I love to see folks in our space getting out there, being great, and doing something like this. Has there been, like, I know there are, I mean, I don't know if you can speak to them without NDAing yourself, but challenges as far as adapting your series in a live action sense, a film sense? Were there any specific challenges that kind of came with that maybe you weren't necessarily anticipating? You get over it, but maybe initially you weren't initially anticipating to kind of either have that conflict or have those issues.
Well, I mean, I think in the first instance, I was incredibly lucky with the people that I was working with, because you're used to this idea of like, oh, I signed my rights over to some Hollywood studio, and they just like absolutely butcher it and do whatever they want because they paid for that right.
Right.
And you hate what you see. But this was a very different thing because it was very collaborative. You know, these guys weren't so much buying the rights to my characters or whatever. They suggested an idea that we would work together on, and then it was up to my audience in a sense to fund it. And that comes with a lot of expectations, because on the one hand, like you say, man, this stuff opens so many doors for people like us, you know, creatives, like people who have an artistic idea or vision. When you get this profile through YouTube, a public profile where people know who you are, people are willing to support you financially to do stuff like this, because there's an appetite for stuff like this. There's an appetite to sponsor independent creators, which is fantastic. But at the same time, man, it comes with so many expectations, because I will never, till my dying day, I will never take for granted the fact that people are willing to literally put their hands in their own pockets to help me out, to do things, to facilitate stuff. You know, whether it's something like a super chat on a live stream or people making donations on the Kickstarter to finance this film, they're ultimately investing in me or my artistic vision.
Right.
You know, and that's a hell of an expectation, because my overriding concern then is I don't want to fuck this up and let these people down.
Absolutely.
That would kill me if I did that. And so it was very important for me to make sure that no matter what else happened, we delivered something that people can feel good about, that they feel proud of, that they helped to support that. That was my big thing. You know, you can then debate, you know, how well it fits into the book series or whatever, but like the ultimate thing is like, okay, they haven't wasted their money. They haven't like turned this into a joke or something. And that's what I think we've made good on with this 100%. And yeah, as far as the challenges of filmmaking, it's always there. You know, making a film like this with dozens of people behind the scenes, with actors, with all the unpredictable stuff that comes with it, is always challenging. Like the example that we gave, or that I talked about before with my backers, is we had to do a big elaborate fight scene up on a rooftop, right, between two characters. It was a beautiful, scorching hot day in the summer in Canada. That's where we were filming it, and all was good. And then, fuck me, the heavens opened. I have never seen rain like this in my entire life. It was like monsoon weather came down right in the middle of us filming. Yeah. Okay, what do you do? Now, my initial thought was like, fine, we'll just wait for it to clear up. We'll do this again tomorrow to pick it up. We can't, because half these actors won't be here tomorrow, because we've only got enough money to like have them in certain days. Okay, fuck. Like, how do we wrap this thing up? Okay, we have to then like come up with a compromise or a solution where we do the rest of the fight inside. Okay, fine. We then improvise the rest of that fight scene and finish it that way. And then the following day, or a couple of days later, we do a linking scene that will like allow them to go inside and do the rest of it. Oh, great. But it's like, you have to always be flexible, because you never know what like challenges are going to get thrown your way. It's all part of like making a movie, and it's all part of making a movie on a budget. That's what you're dealing with. But it's very interesting to do.
Alpha Core #1's pre-order is live. Written by the legendary Chuck Dixon and penciled by Joe Bennett. Visit Rippaverse.com to grab a copy and any of the merchandise items. Be sure to also check out the animated trailer for the campaign, which is the latest project from Rippaverse Studios. Y'all be easy.